Let's call to order the capital improvement meeting for Tuesday, March 5th, 5 p.m. We're going to table the approval of the minutes because we don't have two of us to approve them. We'll move to item 3, discussion, capital planning. And I assume these are your handouts, Mona?
They are, yeah. So, first item we're going to talk about for capital planning is the narrative sheet with the bar graphs on front of it. What we're going to try to do this year with this budget, especially having a reval and right-sizing the grand list and the mill rate, is to propose that we start looking at capital reserves. So there's a lot of narrative, but just kind of high level. Obviously, it's time for us to start doing reserves. We've worked together. We're going to identify at least 3 categories: education, infrastructure, and then parks/facilities. What we're trying to get away from is the need to borrow. So if we look at the that first graph, you can see, and again, I'll let you guys go back and read if you wish, but if you can look at what we've been doing with capital improvement over the past 10 years, we had a pretty good spike in 2014 and then moving downward, and we really haven't been putting a lot into the capital improvement. So if we address the reserves, we should be able to look at some of these items that have been pushed off into future years.
Yeah, this is something we've been talking about for like a year and a half now, right? Trying to get a real plan in place so we don't have to rely on bonding. You know, that just pushes up your funding for 20 to 40 years out in the future. It's not the way to go. You know, you'll see in the spreadsheet what we're trying to do. You'll notice a pattern with the figures when we get to that. I'm sorry.
That's okay, yeah. The second graph in there is comparing other towns off of the state site. They've only got the 21-22 updated, but it looks like that same pattern. But I wanted just to point out that as a percent of all of the expenditures for a year, that we are kind of teetering around in that low percentage range as far as capital expenses in terms of total expenditures. You can see some of the neighboring towns obviously have exceeded. And flipping to the next page, I can't help because it's the finance in me, but you know, we got to talk about credit worthy. We've got a AA+ bond rating. We should focus on keeping that. One of the major categories, actually a couple of them, are looking at debt and also planning for the future. If we go in this direction, obviously, we could probably increase our bond rating, would be the ultimate goal. But if we could get at least premiums on some of these bonds that we're doing, we will probably have to do one in the fall because we'll have to do the sell the bonds for that road referendum. We've been spending along, and now we have to do the bond sale for that. So we're looking at about $6 million. So best to do the best we can with those numbers. Looking at total debt as a percent of expenditures, and I think this should drive the reasoning home. Obviously for Rocky Hill, we're in that 80%. As a rule, the bond rating agencies are looking around like a 30 to 60 is good. Granted, we have a new school, and we've got a senior center, and we did 2 rounds of $10 million road referendums. I think we're at that kind of ceiling of where we should be with debt, and would give us a reason that this should be the year that we start kicking off the capital reserve and planning accordingly. So that is the focus of what you're going to see on the line items by department.
Just a couple of questions. So I'm looking at it, and our annual capital outlay as a percent of expenditures, of course, is lower because we just did the school improvement, as you said, the roads. So we paid for it through funding. The only thing I know we've put money away and we've taken money in and out is the pool, which we've played with, and then we're putting money away each year for continuous road improvements. Right?
No, not on the road improvements.
We bonded on it.
No, the last 2 budgets we put over $100,000 into the
This year
budget. We took it.
We did not this year, and then the prior year
Okay.
we did the
I
100.
know we had talked about it.
Yeah,
We did.
It is. there's a tiny little
Okay,
pocket
so
there.
that kind of makes sense to what we're seeing in the
Mhm,
trending.
exactly.
Comparative to the other towns. I
Right.
just want to make sure I understand it.
Mhm.
And then the only thing that you're not looking at in any of the calculations is what our assets are worth, as far as when we start looking at liquidity,
Mhm.
because we're just looking at the expense side, so.
Yeah. I would say for liquidity, when we're looking at a bond rating, we are doing extremely well,
Mhm.
so.
Okay.
Not that we're all mad, it's just, it's time to consider the capital reserve
Yep.
approach. So as we get into the next section, do we want to go to agenda item, next one?
Was this part of your,
This will start picking up item 4 and 5 of the agenda.
okay, so why don't we go through item 4, the Board of Education Capital Improvement Project.
Okay.
Ron?
Oh, if you don't mind, I'm gonna
Oh,
jump
Mona's
in and
gonna
then I'm
start?
gonna segue to
I'll
Ron.
let Mona take it out.
So,
Is that one of those, thanks for coming, Ron?
Yeah.
Actually, Ron's expecting, we had meetings about this, so we're all on the same page, which is a great page to be on. So since we'll go to Ron, I'm gonna, the first yellow, or the third yellow highlighted that says GF Board of Ed section. We are looking at the capital items that the Board of Ed has and recommending that if we did a $1.2 million reserve for them for a 5-year, or it's probably extending out if we did a long-range plan, that would be able to help the Board of Ed address some of their capital items. I'm gonna just jump down to the second page. Second page. And toward the bottom, we have Board of Ed. Yep, so the third yellow section called the GF Board of Education, and I'm gonna let, if Ron wants to talk to some of those, but you can see across for the 5 years, the total request, the 1.4 million, 1.5. Clearly a 1.2 reserve would help us plan for these projects. I don't want to speak for Ron, but I think we had discussion that if at least the 1.2 was a reserve, that they would be able to take some of these smaller items and try to work that into to their own budgets. So some of the small 50,000, 47,000. But clearly, as like I said, we've done the bonding, we've got the schools, and we've got the roads. There are projects that are creeping up ahead of us that if we don't address them, they will accumulate. I don't know, Ron, if you wanted to just talk about some of your items.
Yeah, so a few of the items, some of the bigger things that are coming up, West Hill roof replacement, we're well over 25 years on that. It's a built-up roof. We're managing the leaks, but they're getting more and more. So that's something that obviously we need to design, and then we go through the problem. And that's reimbursable as well, so there'd be money coming back from the state on those. I think we're at 42% reimbursement rate. So that's something that is coming up that we have to look at fairly quickly.
Ron, so the 1.7 million, is that your total cost, or is that the cost after reimbursement?
That's what we're looking at as cost after reimbursement.
After reimbursement,
That's our
okay.
cost.
Yep, okay.
Just tell them to go in my office, they're on the desk. Big square key. Sorry about that. We have a chair emergency at Stevens, short for a concert. Randy, the keys are on my desk, it's Nick's old bring.
I'll bring these back up.
Yep. And obviously, for the last couple of years, we've been talking heavily about the Stevens HVAC project, which we did do a phase 1, which took care of 10 classrooms last summer. And we did apply for a grant to continue for this year. But we're still $3 million away on that project being complete roughly. And the longer we push it out, the more expensive it gets. So, and with the new state indoor air quality issues that they're going to start mandating us to follow, we really have to get ahead of those. So what's nice is we had it designed so we can chunk it out, and we're not, hammering you guys for, $3 million at one click. So that the reserve portion of that actually helps us out because we can do it in bits and pieces. And now with the new HVAC grant money that the state has and doesn't have, depends, it's competitive, so we don't know if we're getting the money or not. So we're still sort of in limbo on that till spring. But I do believe we're ready to go out for a second smaller phase for this coming summer. And that's what we applied for. And we also applied for reimbursement for the phase we did last year. So we potentially could get some money back from grant money for last year's phase and moving forward for this year's phase.
That's a matching grant, so matches what we spend that year, is that?
So it's not a full match, it's still at that 42% reimbursement rate.
Based on what we spent that year?
No, it's not what we spent. So we spend, last year we spent 400 and something thousand phase one. The next phase is about, I think it's just under 300,000. So we'll get 42% of those back, maybe. Like I said, it's competitive, so we're still.
So the grant is based on what we spend that year, not over the whole project, it's just.
Right, so every year.
Right, it's reimbursed back, yeah, every year.
Okay,
So
that's what I'm saying.
it's a process.
Yep.
Those are the two bigger ones. You know, and a lot of it is just, you know, keeping the buildings up to date. I mean, the tech ed and media centers at GMS they're starting to get aged, so it's really, and with the curriculum changes and stuff to make sure we meet the needs of what the curriculum requires. So we're looking at a full design and renovation, but that's further out, the renovation portion of it. Unfortunately, we couldn't get the canopy at GMS done as part of the roof. It wasn't reimbursable, and it's a large item. So we left that out, and we're, you know, moving that down, way down the road, but that's something that's gonna be looked at to be done. Actually, I saw a picture of that canopy's been there since the building was built in '63, so it's been there a little while. But for this coming year, we are looking, you know, at finishing the science classrooms, the last two. We're pretty well set to go. We have good numbers for that. We can start that this summer. You know, that 300,000 is right about where we are on that one. We also have, what's the front entrance? Oh, so that the front entrance GMS, that's a man trap, 47.5. That's the last school where we don't have a means to slow down a bad actor. If they can get in the front doors, they're getting in the building. So that's something that we really are pushing to get done this summer as well. We've had the others in place for a couple of years now. It's something that we think needs to be done. Let's see. The McVicker bleachers, that's become a higher priority because we're mixing our visitors and our home spectators, and that gets a little rowdy sometimes, especially when we play Cromwell. So, but the visitor bleachers were removed during the project during the high school renovation out of safety concerns, and there was no money to do them at the time. So they've been done. We have some temporary bleachers there, but that's something that Craig and I have been talking about for a little while now too, and we'll. So that number is probably right in the 100,000 is probably right. Like we need a new pad, and then the new ADA accessible visitor bleachers as well. So.
Yeah.
So just, Ron, just one question on that. So the the roof replacement cost, we know we can get a 42%, approximately 42% back.
Yep.
The HVAC, we don't know.
We don't know
So
that.
that's the full cost in there.
Yes, that's full cost.
Okay, so
Yep.
just the opposite of that?
Yes, it's just the
Okay,
opposite.
that's all I want to make sure.
Yep.
Do you mind if I do a quick recap?
No, go right ahead.
Okay. So recap for you. I had already talked about the narrative page with the charts, and what we're presenting is to try, for the sake of bond ratings, as well as just being strategic and proactive and instead of reactive on capital, to do reserves for the three larger categories: Board of Ed, infrastructure, and then facilities / parks. So what we did do is the first item on the agenda being Board of Ed, our recommendation and with the Board of Ed's agreement that a $1.2 million reserve over the next 5 years would allow them to address at least a good part of what their itemized section was, which is what we were just reading from on the second page related to Board of Ed. We've had discussions with Board of Ed, and they say that if we were able to be able to fund that 1.2, some of the smaller items might be able to be absorbed by them. So I think that's the quick catch-up of what happened.
Okay, and in that 1.2, because we've already received the preliminary Board of Ed budget, is that included? I haven't gone through the budget package. Is that included in the budget, or is that in addition to what was presented?
It is their capital improvement page, so not
Okay.
in their operating, it's
Yep,
their
in their
capital
capital
improvement
improvement
page.
page, yep.
So this is basically mirroring what they had on that last capital
Okay.
page. Just for note, we did fund this year 200,000, so the difference would be for us an increase of 1 million to make the 1.2.
Sort of 1.2, yeah.
Correct, yeah, so it's,
Any other questions on Board of Ed? Letting Ron off the hook easy?
I appreciate it. It's my first
For
meeting.
tonight, at least.
Yeah. All right, if there's no questions, we'll move on to the town capital improvement project.
Do you mind if I step off?
You more than welcome.
I gotta make sure this concert gets set up.
The chair emergency.
Yeah, we're about 100 chairs short. We're working. We need to pick up keys for a van. We're transporting chairs from another school, so. I appreciate it, guys.
No, thanks,
you so
Ron.
much.
thank you.
Good luck, Ron.
Okay, so for town side, I'm gonna go back to the first page of the 2-page spreadsheet. And as you can see, we had the request for the $1 million for infrastructure, and then the $250 for parks. But before we get to those individual departments, there's this little green highlighted section in there, which is not going to fit. It's on the first page here. There's 5 or 6 green highlighted items. These are not items. Do they not look green?
Well, they're gray, but we get
They're
it.
gray.
Yeah, we got it.
Yeah, we got the ones where she ran out of
Okay.
I
things.
think so.
Wasn't in the budget, we get
That's
it.
right. I should have emailed them. No, so the gray items that are there don't fit into a reserve, but these are requests that we were planning to put in. We've got a vehicle for highway. I'm just gonna go through them kind of quick, and if you wanna jump in after. So a vehicle for the highway department, a pickup truck for the parks grounds. These are leases over a 4 or 5 year period. We're talking about doing reval on an annual basis rather than the 5 year. And I know Stuart would come in and give us some more information on how that works, but that would be the 40,000 each year. Ideally, that should become an operating expense if we went in that direction. We have a new item from town manager. That's the purchase of 2 electric vehicles, SUV type, and a charging station. We worked with the auditors, and they're looking at, this is the net number after getting federal rebates for each vehicle and for the charging station. And we've worked with from Joe in the highway, and we've had discussions about if it's doable, where can the station be, and I think we could move forward with something like this if it was approved. Police generator, I'm gonna let Phil jump on that one, but you're seeing the full amount right there. We have a request into FEMA for a grant. We've been toying with this for a couple of years. We should be looking at 40,000 our cost, but since we don't have the award for right now, I'm keeping that 180,000 as a placeholder.
Let me jump in on what you said.
Jump.
Tori was dealing with this for a couple of years.
Yes, sir.
I submitted 3 grants back in 2012, 13, and 2011 for that same generator that was in terrible condition. So we've been dealing with this this has been pushed for so many years. I'm shocked it's still operating.
Phil and I feel optimistic
still
with
running.
our last round. He did a wonderful job.
We're
So,
just, winging a prayer, but
Mhm.
it's running.
yeah. So I don't know if we just wanted, those items following there in white, those are already items that we'd have to fund, they're, you know, the town aid road and existing, you know, remaining years on leases. So, I don't know if you had questions on those, green/gray areas being the trucks and the SUVs.
Joe, the truck, what, we're replacing, new?
Truck 17, which just went down on us this winter, which was a frontline truck,
Okay.
1999 Sterling.
Yep.
I would say that it's, we're pretty much shot. I mean, I got pictures of the frame. It's, we actually had to bolt the frame down. We're not dumping with it.
Yep.
So we're, you know, if I get another 10-inch storm, it would be the backup, okay? And if another vehicle broke down, I'd have to put somebody in that vehicle. But it's definitely, you know, 1999. We've been, you know, I guess two of them, they both need to go 14 and 17.
And that
25
just
years
brings
old.
down the average age of your fleet.
Well,
This will,
that's a-
yeah, this will,
That's a good segue.
yeah,
There you go.
Yeah.
just like the last one
Yeah.
did. The last one replaced in 1986. The one you bought last year,
Yep.
which we call Truck 69, that was for the asphalt and everything else we do, curbing, topsoil, but it's also, now that's a frontline truck, right now, replacing 17.
Okay.
But normally, that truck would be the backup, because I don't want to keep on putting salt in it, if I don't have to, because I want it to last 20 years.
Right.
You know, that was a special truck
Yeah,
that
now,
we bought
are you-
last year.
Is your lease a full setup or just a chassis?
That's a full setup.
Full
Full
setup,
setup.
okay.
The number in here is a full setup.
We'll probably have to bill
Yeah.
it separately, but the
Yeah, yeah.
line item is.
No, I communicated with him, we're gonna make this just one payment,
Okay.
15
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
payment.
But
That's-
so it's
cab
brand
chassis
new,
and-
cab chassis,
yeah.
everything's,
Yeah, cab chassis body,
okay.
everything, plow too,
Oh, plow too?
yeah. Yeah, that number is a complete truck,
Gotcha.
bells and whistles.
Okay.
Industry standard
How long
is 12
the,
years, right? Something like that, 12 years?
15.
12 to 15 years
Yeah,
on these
I wanted
trucks.
If I
to,
get a
yeah,
water
so
truck.
we've worked together, I'd say Joe and I have worked, and his garage, on making sure that the line item is that to have vehicles being an average of no greater than 10 years.
Yeah,
This
that's-
purchase would allow that, and no vehicle older than 15. We're not there yet. Every department will, with these two purchases, being that truck and also the one for the Parks Department, for that pickup, that will bring them to the average age for the 10, but we'll still have vehicles that are older than 15. So we're still looking at probably about 3 or 4 vehicles out there in the highway. I think in Parks you'll have an older one still for the upcoming. But we're definitely making some headway. I think from when I got involved in this, we had some very old vehicles, not a great plan, so I think this is, we're on the right track.
We're on the right track.
Yeah.
The one statement that I would love to make is that we're talking about my front line. These are the frontline vehicles within the amortization that Mona is talking about, and getting the average year to those years. That's the frontline vehicles, because I still got equipment and vehicles that, you know,
Yeah, we're not talking equipment.
yeah, we're
The
not,
backups.
So
but,
that's-
well, the
Yeah.
bucket truck
Yeah.
and,
Yeah, the
Yeah.
large
you know,
equipment
there's
is
other,
older.
and the sweepers, but this is the front line, which is very important. That needs to be that 10-year number, you know? That's important, because then, you know, I could trade,
Right.
you know?
You also cut down on your repairs and maintenance, having
Well-
more up-to-date equipment versus what I'll call almost obsolete. You're at 20 years, it's hard to get.
You're putting more money, so you just keep them on the road.
Yeah.
Well, I have one of those vehicles right now that we're working on.
Yep. No,
Yes.
understood.
Correct. No,
What's up?
Did you want to mention your F-350?
the,
Yeah, I'm actually trying to pull up my list here.
Well, that,
I think it's is it truck 87, Joe?
yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you guys weren't.
Yeah, that's
I didn't print it, sorry.
No, I got a list. I got my list right here. I was able to pull it up. I don't know all the numbers off the top of my head, but it's a
No,
2000.
I think it is 87, I didn't print here, so.
Yeah, it's a 2005.
what do we,
Yeah. we're gonna
So
have
that-
a 4-year, 60,000 total, F-350.
I have no question.
And you mentioned the 2 electric SUVs were planned for the pool cars, which take care of the assessor's office, building department. I know, I see you, Phil,
Phil.
the facilities
duct tape.
director who's
No,
driving
no.
a 2,000 Crown Vic.
you're not getting electric.
You're keeping the Crown Vic.
Yeah,
No, I
no, I just want to make sure I don't fall off the four wheels. Maybe a
Is it
cup of
over
coffee in
15
the
years?
morning.
Because if it is, we'll have to.
Yeah, that thing is,
What year is that thing?
it's
Yeah,
gotta be.
2,000 Crown Vic?
Yeah, at least.
2000?
I think
Not
that's,
older.
that one's a 98 or 99.
At least we have white duct tape. Imagine.
Yeah, well, they didn't have any, now it's black duct
You
tape.
can design.
So have you spec'd out what you're proposing?
We're looking at, we don't really have that spec'd out yet. We're looking at some SUVs, the lower end, smaller SUVs. Because as you get up into larger sizes, the cost escalates.
Yeah. And then Joe got
So,
prices for
They're,
one of the
you know, it
Nissan.
takes, they're
Yeah.
not that quick. He was quick on the electric, I couldn't believe it. In a week, I had
Hybrid.
to, I'm waiting on a hybrid and a gas. So I went out with all 3, electric, a hybrid, and a gas. I asked him to quote, like a small SUV, actually, Maverick, it's a small
Ford
truck.
makes a Maverick.
Because,
Yeah.
well, that price
It's a
of the
hybrid.
Maverick, you know, Steve reached out and it was, it's cheap.
You're not, yeah.
But again, we want to try to go with the hybrid or gas. I'm waiting on those quotes.
Yeah, and there's
Yeah,
different
yeah.
kind of hybrids. There's hybrid, and then there's a plug-in hybrid. And then, of course, there's different kind of charging stations. There's level 1, 2, right? You know, I don't know it all. I have to,
Yeah, it gets complicated.
it's, yeah.
I think if we were getting the federal credit, at least according to what the auditors, we had to go all out
All
electric.
electric.
Yeah.
So it makes it easier, you know.
If I could interject
Yeah.
a little bit
Yes.
about the car chargers, it, you know, depends upon what your future plan is
Yeah.
going forward, is having a station, you know, for roads. You know, right now, if you're only buying 2, we can fit them in a building, you know, near a building, wherever, you know, for right now. But once you start going fleet, and you're not talking power coming off a building, you're talking power coming off the street to a transformer, to a panel system, to the chargers.
We need like a
30%,
small charger in the park.
30%
What's that?
credit from the feds.
Yeah, like a small charging
Park
park.
the
Right.
piece across the street, next to our parking lot.
That's what I thought. That's what we talked about.
Yeah. That would
Put
be
them on
the
another
perfect.
20 spots, you get all electric.
No, the one that's for sale,
Yeah, what you want.
a couple million.
Really?
We'll talk about that, that's,
Zalo.
On the list.
So, just on those, just to put those into perspective, and I don't need it for tonight, but when we get into the budget conversation, if you could just kind of map out what the usage of our fleet cars are, so we know what we're looking at for how many miles we're going into. I don't need it by month or week, but, you know, an annual number.
Yeah.
We do X amount and how many days they're used, just put it in perspective for us. I think
Right.
that would be helpful.
Obviously, in the summer, the
I have-
engineering stuff is going on a lot more than in winter.
Right.
and Stuff like that.
Yep.
Yeah, Joe's got that.
So I should
we
make a
shared
note
already.
then? I wasn't gonna make any notes tonight.
I'll make a note and remind you.
Mona gave you lots of paper for a reason, Joe.
Do you want a pen?
Here, share mine from Staples, right on your arm.
Because that'll help us understand what it offsets for a cost.
Right, right.
What, you know, kind of calculate a quick payback.
I mean, I have it, I did it a few years ago.
Okay.
I have, I know that his building guys, they put on more mileage.
Building guys, yeah, they're out daily.
Well,
Yep.
and Stu has been, those 2 cars have been putting on at least 10,000, but normally the other vehicles are 8,000 miles a year. 10, 10.
Yeah.
But there's 5 vehicles that are putting on close to 20.
Mhm.
But I'll get the exact number.
20 probably starts to make sense, 8 to 10, you're barely driving enough.
Well, that's only
Justify.
that's only 3 vehicles for
Right.
us.
Yep. But they're probably, you know, they're around town, I mean, you're going to buildings local, so
Yeah.
it's not long haul. Understood, it would just be a good matrix to,
I'll get the number.
Yeah,
Thanks.
we
Thank
got
you.
that.
okay.
Right. then I'll go to to our little highlighted section on parks and facilities. We are looking at setting the reserve at $250 for them. And if you flip onto the second page, there's a section called Parks and Facilities. And I think, Craig, you're the first one there, and I just want to go through those with Bill.
Yeah, so we're looking to do some work at Maxwell Park for the deck hockey court. It's included in this packet here, but it's become pretty much unplayable at this point, to the point where I've had to shut it down, which is a shame because it is a lit area. We would like to actually multi-purpose that, work in conjunction with Joe's guys to take out the old court and then have them resurface, and then we would be in charge of going back in with fencing and basketball hoops and striping it for multi-use. Next thing down the line is the pool, indoor pool. We've got a grout. We need to redo the grout. We need to regrout the indoor pool at the high school. It was actually probably should have been done last year. So we've stretched this out. So that absolutely needs done this year. And we do have a small leak with the main drain. So when the pool is completely drained, we'll be able to just go in and repair it without having to bladder it with water in the pool or anything like that. So the same contractor can do the work for both projects.
Craig,
Right.
on,
Oh, yeah, we were probably gonna say, it's on the Board of Ed, that he has the pumps that you were trying to coordinate the two
Yeah.
lines.
Yeah, so he actually, some of the work, he doesn't have to coordinate with that. He can do it with water in the pool.
so we're talking two separate projects, then 100,000 Board of Ed,
Yeah.
50,000
Yeah,
park side.
yeah.
Okay, that's what I was doing the same kind of area.
Yeah, it would be ideal, but he still needs, I don't want to speak on behalf of Ron, but I do know that he still needs to hire an engineer to do some design for that. And the stuff that we need to do, we don't need an engineer, and we can't afford to wait for this. As a matter of fact, I've been speaking to Mona, actually, about possibly swapping out, doing this indoor grout job actually in May before the summer season, and swapping it out with our cricket project to start that in July 1, because we're already planning to do the cricket project in June of this year. So if we, starting it in June and starting it in July, there's no difference. So knowing that we need to get this done ASAP, because if we start it in May, we're able to have swimming for camp, and we can do all of our summer swim lessons. If we wait until July to do the work, because there is a 30-day curing period for the grout, if we wait until July to do the work, now we're displacing all camp kids from the pool in the summer at the high school. We would have to pay for busing to Elmridge, and then we wouldn't have any summer lessons, or the summer lessons would go outdoors, but they would be reduced. And then we would be on a time crunch to make sure the pool is ready for the girls' swim team season, which starts like the third week of August. So that's something we gotta talk about too. That's kinda, I know I just kinda
Yeah.
threw that at you guys, but the grout definitely needs done. There's tiles popping, and, you know, we're definitely a year past that.
So what's the risk of doing that, of swapping?
I don't think there's a
Well, we
risk
have
at all.
In the capital for this year, we have it as a cricket field with the funds reserved in general fund for that, and then this particular project hasn't made it to the approval stages, so we
Yeah,
had
that's-
talked about, so.
but
as we
it's
go through
around the same
process,
amount.
If it stays on, we can
Right.
switch
Yeah.
funds.
So
It's
the
a-
risk is if it doesn't get approved in the budget,
Correct.
the cricket field doesn't get done?
That's exactly what you're at risk.
Because you're talking about next year's budget, not the current year.
Correct.
Mhm.
Okay,
And
we just
wanna
wanna
get
know
that-
what the risk is.
That is-
Yeah, and we wanna get that done.
Okay.
Yeah. The next line item, I think this is the last one. It's actually, it's not, the wording in it needs to be changed to outdoor pool painting, which would be around 50,000 for for the outdoor pool.
I think it's a combo item, so you start with the painting and then you jump into liner.
Well, yeah, so
Go for it.
you can see some big numbers that are going down the line for those fiscal years. And this might be part of a bigger conversation, but we definitely need to have some conversations about where we want to go with the outdoor pool at Elm Ridge. It is a 60, it's close to 60 years old. And there are some things that you can do, like put in a pool liner system, which might extend the life of the pool by 15 to 20 years. But in order to put the pool liner system in, you'd have to do some work to the existing pool. You'd have to do some decking repairs, potentially some coping repairs.
That's the same piping too, right?
Yeah, that's
From the house to,
yeah, it's the original piping as well.
That's 1962.
Well, it
Right.
opened, no, 68.
68?
68, yeah. So, we're faced with the question of, do we spend a couple $100,000, and I don't even have the final number on that, to put in a new liner system, which we might potentially get 15 to 20 years out of, but, something could happen tomorrow, and so we have to figure it out, whether or not we want to do something like that. A new pool we've gotten some estimates on that with a new bathhouse, and that's extremely expensive, and I think it's pretty cost prohibitive at this point.
Like how expensive?
Like probably over $10 million when it's all said and done for a bathhouse, because if you put a new pool in, you're gonna have to put a new bathhouse in.
And it's gonna all have to be to the current standards, ADA compliant.
Yep, it'd have to be, yep, because we'd be putting a new structure
Yep.
together.
Gotcha.
So there would be zero depth entry, there would be, there'd be a lot of different things to make it handicap accessible. So there's that, or the other idea, which we've pitched, is to potentially go for a splash pad. We could do it in addition to the existing pool and ride that out, or we could get rid of the existing pool, turn it into a splash pad. Maybe put a new bathhouse in, we could get a quote, but we definitely need to hire an engineer to be able to do some planning for that.
So you would close the existing pool and put the splash pad in that same exact location? Pretty much.
Roughly, in the same area.
So can you phase in your new pool so that this, what do you call it, bathhouse, can be what it is that you need for the new pool? And, maybe every year do something towards that new pool, or no?
I mean, new pool or new pad, you mean?
No, like a new pool. Like if you put in a pad and you put in a bathhouse, right? Say that bathhouse is going to be exactly what you need for the pool. Is that possible, first of all?
I mean, I think the longer we wait on this, as Ron mentioned before, the costs are only going up on projects like this. So even if we're
There's also
planning now.
logistics to tie in the house and the pool, 'cause all
Yeah.
your pumps and stuff are in the house.
Side.
So you
Yeah.
can't really phase it in. You just have to go for it.
I think you'd have to go
Yeah,
for it,
I would say.
yeah.
So it's more like a referendum question, you think?
Oh,
Or-
it's-
Yeah.
For 10 million.
And I've been told that that's not
No,
even.
no, I'm asking like, how else would you get that money?
Yeah.
It would
That's
have
the
to go
only
to
way.
referendum,
Yeah.
like.
If I may, I remember about 10 years ago, Mona, you might remember, we were sitting here at a council meeting, and I think Lisa was the Park and Rec director at the time, and she was asking for monies for a pool, and it was nixed pretty quick by the then council, because they said the usage just wasn't there. I don't know what the usage is, but I know
The
that.
usage is, we've got great usage.
Yeah,
but-
I'm just saying, this was like about 10 years ago, and the council at that time said,
Yeah.
I mean, can you really get rid of the pool and just put a splash pad? Is that what you're talking? And then the pool at the
That
high school
has to be an
sustain
option that we
It's
explore.
gotta be a few
population.
million bucks right there to do that.
Oh, yeah.
he's got it as 1.1 right here, I think that's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the conversation is, though, this year you're looking to paint the pool.
Yeah,
That's, or next.
Next fiscal year is paint the pool,
Yep.
but I did want to go on the record and just bring
Yep.
this up as something to,
So you know, not to put it back to you, but you kinda gotta figure out what the plan is to go forward.
Yep.
Are we looking to do a pool, a splash pad? And you're right, I mean, I go back to when Lisa was here and I was on the Parks Advisory Board, we were talking about this, and that's like 8-10 years ago at
Yeah.
this point. So the pool survived through that
Yeah.
period.
Well,
But,
yeah.
you know, call it knock on wood.
Well, and here's the thing, I mean, let's be honest, it's still 60 years old.
Yeah.
And there's, you know, we do a great job of upkeeping it, but something can happen.
Something catastrophic as far as drainage and all that.
Yeah.
Now you're digging and chopping.
Well, even with a liner, you're not guaranteed, because it's,
Correct.
it's a liner.
Yeah.
That's why
Correct.
you were iffy. I mean, a liner's
Yeah.
a liner.
Yeah, so, you know, and I think, I mentioned it last night.
Stainless steel liner, right?
There's stainless steel liners, yeah, but that's the same, you're still putting the liner
Still in the structure.
inside the existing
You still have-
structure.
Yeah.
You still have infrastructure that you have to. worry
Correct.
about.
And you'd still have to outfit that too, so,
Did we have a conversation on the record about possibly partnering with Weathersfield about this?
They don't have a pool?
No, I thought something like we would be able to maybe potentially, I'm just thinking, like,
No.
how would we make?
not to my knowledge.
I know some towns do that.
Yeah.
You know, one
Did-
town has the pool and they offer it to the
I
other
thought we
town.
did
I think we
about
talked,
this,
I don't
yeah.
remember what town, I thought during the budget process.
Yeah,
We just mentioned would it make sense to partner with another town to help defer the cost? And then, you know, maybe we could expand hours or whatever, you know, it sounds like Nick's doing a great job with lifeguards. Instead of closing at a certain time, maybe we're, with lights, we can go a little bit later and expand the use in the summer season.
I mean, I think people have had grand visions of, you know, putting a dome over it and stuff. But that went in this year and out the other.
It's called the high school.
No offense.
That's the high school.
Well, and I
Yeah.
said it last night in our presentation.
I swam there.
The advantage we have is we have 2 aquatic facilities,
Mhm.
whereas some towns don't even have one.
Yeah, my town does not have one.
Yeah, so, you know, if the time ever came and we said, we're just gonna put a splash pad there, because it is nice to have an outdoor feature in the summer when it's hot. It's not like people are still, they still have the opportunity to go swim in town. So that's another.
When would we be at a point where a lot of the debt that we're carrying now would be sufficiently reduced, where the town could then contemplate reasonably going out to referendum for a pool? Like, is it 5 years, 10 years?
To go out for the referendum?
Yeah, you know, because now I know we have a lot of debt, right?
Mhm.
We want to pay that down.
Yeah.
So is
It's-
there a
it's not
time
good
when it-
picture.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll bring it for definitely the budget process, but you're looking at about $80 million right now that's debt. You'll see that drop by about 10 million in the next 10 years, and then you'll see the considerable drop, but you actually get zeroed out in 2041. So we're high, we dip, and
I
then
need
we.
a garage.
That's coming.
We
That's
had
on the
some
list.
large items and it takes
Duke it
a while,
out.
yeah.
I
All
do
right, I'm
think
done.
though, but I do think it warrants a lot more conversation, because at a minimum, I think the people need that space. And if
Yep.
it's at least a splash pad for now, well,
Well, and I think that's why the 50,000 for the painting of the pool will buy us another couple years to, you know, as long as there's no major failures there, it gives us, I just don't want to go along with the proverbial kicking of the can down the road.
No, that's why
That's why we're starting to
this whole
put some
process.
funds in here, yes.
Exactly, funding to, we know you're going to do something, what the
Correct.
something is. I believe, Craig, the discussion on that 300,000 the second year was including some kind of a study and
Yep.
design.
Yep.
So I think that's the next
Do an
before
RFP and-
before we
Yeah,
send out the question.
sorry, everyone. Sorry, Ray. Actually, no, I'm not sorry.
Like, Phil, did you have, you had a couple of
Yeah, I
items
can
on
go
there.
through this.
Um,
So for year 25, next budget season, 140 for Firehouse 2 roof replacement. So that is 1999 when it was installed. It's showing the skin is showing its fiber underneath, and it's, you know, and once that happens, you know there's water leaking in. It may not be leaking to the floor, but it's enough to wet the insulation. The insulation doesn't dry. The risk is the decking underneath rusting. I mean, it's a long period of time to do that, but that's what you risk. It puddles, it's not drained properly, and it's time.
Firehouse 2 is New Britain Avenue?
Yes.
Okay. I never get those numbers
You want to just do this year, or do you want me to talk about,
Sally?
I'm sorry?
If there are any questions on the other items,
Go ahead.
Okay, so 26 Sallyport roof at the police department. So it's not the smaller section, it's the larger section, and that was put in 2006 or 7. And that's the 20-year mark at 26. So it's still, if it's, you know, in the fall I do the inspections. If it still looks okay, then we'll push it off to another year. But that's the 20-year mark. Town hall membrane roof, so that's above here. We call it rooftop, where all the rooftop units are. It's a membrane with trap rock on felt to hold it down. That we've been experiencing leaks here and there throughout, you know, band-aiding to patch. So far, we're good, but
my office would
but that's
tin
gonna,
bucket.
you know, and it's in good shape. So, I mean, that can last until the 28, year 28. And then what else? Elevator for police department. So that's a 1985 vintage, in good shape. You know, everything that, all of our big components like that, we inspect every year. We have a, you know, maintenance plan for it. But the components on the sender unit, where the hydraulic system is, there's some even, I want to say RCA type tubing for controls. So that's how old, you know, it is. But, you know, if it does go, then we're not going to find that, obviously, you know, this time. But I mean, we won't have to do a whole renovation. We could just do the sender unit. But this would include the upgrades of the car as well, and the wiring trunk line from you know, the sender to the car itself. And I think that's it. That covered everything.
So the next section, I'm gonna go to infrastructure, which is a section at the top. And again, I can't stress enough the idea that the reserve, I think, is gonna be the right way to go for all the reasons that I wrote. I won't repeat it, but from a finance point of view, we're ready. We really have to start doing these things. I think this kind of sends that message louder than all, because as much as we've done 2 rounds of $10 million for road referendums, there are projects that are existing right now, you know, that's, you know, fortunately, we've had grant funds that you saw on the front page that took care of some of these others, that if we're not addressing them and have a plan to start addressing these, we could have some major issues. Obviously, if we don't do the reserves, then at budget time, we should come back to this page and look at the items individually, because there's definitely, it's not, don't do the reserve and we're okay now, because I just saved $2 million. I mean, it's truly, these items are there because they're needed. And take it away, Steve, you've got a good list there.
Well, yeah, if I could just say, and I harp on this all the time, but the LOTZIP funds, you know, we show that on the previous page, which is a grant kind of thing, aid from the state. But anytime you get state monies over 50 grants, and I picked it out for visual purposes, this is their one document that the contractor, a small mom and pop, would have to fill out. It's crazy. It's down to 26 pages. And then if they have over 50 employees, then you got this 50-pager. So, and you know, we're dealing mostly with the mom and pops, so it's 26 pages. It's hard to get people to do the work. So, if, you know, if we, in lots, if we can put it like a piggy bank, right? If I'm not correct, so you can save it year after year and do a bigger project. So if we could fund our sidewalk projects through our regular CIP versus using this grant, we might get better bids. We might get bids. I mean, last year to get 3 guys, we had to call people.
Yes.
Hey, can you bid? And then just also on this process, the barn, not the barn, but the remediation that's going on at the barn site out there at Straska Farm, they put their thing in like Thanksgiving-ish. They just got a letter today that they were rejected on their plan. So they've done all this work. It took 3 months for somebody to review this and reject it. So I know one of our consultants, one of our contractors we used when we were doing this on one of our big road projects, it took him 2 years to get that plan approved. So he didn't get paid a percentage until it's approved. So
And
it's
that's for projects that are $50,000.
$50,000 to
And that's
and up.
that really needs to
It's just,
change.
it's really a headache. So I just keep saying, anything we can absorb in our budget rather than using some of these grants on small projects will be great.
Steve, just along that line, are your projects subject to Davis-Bacon Act?
Depends on the
Prevailing wage.
cost. Depends on the cost and whether it's a new or a, what do they call it? Repair, renovation, something like
Right.
that. So it's.
New, yes, and.
No, they are. Yeah, but there's thresholds. Usually the projects are under those thresholds.
Okay.
Depending on what they are.
Or $100,000 for.
And I think it went up
Did it?
from 100 to, I think that one went to 400. I gotta look, and one's $1 million. So.
Because it's just a cost driver as well.
Yeah. Yeah, so you have, and the problem with that is, a lot of these are a one-season project, and they set that price, and it changes in July 1.
Mhm.
So you gotta guess what it's gonna go up to when you bid the project. So, as you see, a lot of these projects are sidewalks, and that's been a big, driver here lately. There's been a lot of talk about that with the council and the walk bike Rocky Hill, and these are the ones that have been identified and had the most requests. Main Street, which I put way out, but there's been a bunch of requests to go from Brook Street to Mosier School.
Main Street.
Oh, Main Street, sorry.
Main
Yeah, that's
Street.
Main Street, yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Main Street, Route 99.
Yeah.
Route 99, yes. Yeah, to go from Brook Street to Mosier School. Hayes Road, that's down in front of the pond there, and connect the loop. We've been talking about that for a couple of years. Washington Street, so we can get down to the,
Oh, we got a grant for that, no?
not Washington, no, to get down to the river. France Street, there's a couple of missing pieces, so you could get down to Route 3. We actually, when we rebuilt that bridge, we put in that contract some survey, because there's a steep part there and the road gets really close to the property line, so we have that survey already done. Those are the big sidewalk items. The rest are grants like Glastonbury Ave, which we still haven't got the okay on.
Should have something.
And the second part of Cold Spring Road, not Cold Spring, Century Hills, which also we haven't got the okay on.
Yeah.
And we should be going to bid on both Elm Street and Century Hills Phase
Actually,
1 in the next couple of weeks.
On the,
Yeah, the first page will
First
show you
page,
those
yeah.
funded
Bottom.
already.
Yeah, that's all down
those
there
are
with
all
the.
grant-funded
Yeah.
projects, so those are.
We have
ones
quite a
we're
few,
talking about.
quite a few. So, but I'm just going over, these are sidewalk requests or discussions that we've had in the past with councils, the manager, the public.
Let's go to Belden Lane. Steve.
So Bella Lane culvert repair, so we have an issue there, and you'll see when the budget comes out, I have some pictures in there, but, we don't know how long that's gonna stay standing. It's very steep on one side, they put riprap, it's all on the river now. They put asphalt, that's going in the river, they put giant concrete blocks, those are going down the slope, it's just like so probably a 1-to-1 slope, it's very steep. And the pipe is failing. It's a corrugated metal pipe. They're only good for 50 years, and then they start to rust out, and that's starting to happen. It's not a huge traffic generator on that road, but we have the issue of if that were to go, and it collapsed or something, we block it off. How do you turn around a vehicle? So we'd have to get land to make a cul-de-sac. And so that'd still be money, and have to build a cul-de-sac, we'd be up to people's front, up to their garage in some spots to do it.
And that's over by Ames, right?
It's right, it's between Pratt and Glastonbury, behind.
That
Behind
vicinity,
Ames, behind
Yeah,
Cedar
it's actually,
Hollow.
So you're
so
gonna have
Ames
more
goes through
traffic
Cedar
eventually.
Hollow, and then that goes under Belden Lane. So, and we're having issues with, the resident wants a ton of money for an easement
about that
because
later.
we don't have an easement. We have a tiny little easement.
We won't talk about that.
Okay, I'm just saying, it's 14 feet down. So the idea is to pipe, line the pipe, but we also have to replace the walls. You'll see in the pictures, they're just crumbling and deteriorating, the concrete. It's starting to lean a little. So it will improve the stream, the aquatic life, and save the pipe. So that's Belden Lane.
So 750 was the cost a year ago?
It might be two, I'd have to go back and look, yeah. I think I bumped it up, it was like 5 something.
Yes.
So that's with some inflation. Beach Road, I think you've been out there with me when it's flooded. We trap about 12 homes, residents from 12 homes on the other side. We've gone through every possible avenue to find grants for this, and it just doesn't qualify because it's 2 small pipes. So doesn't fall under local bridge or any state program.
You might have that included in the new hazard mitigation
Yes.
plan, right?
You know, we've looked at FEMA options and there's not enough documentation for them to even look at it.
So why is the culvert prioritized over Beach Road?
It's just been a project we've been working on for a couple of years, so.
But in terms of like people,
Well,
benefit.
if you look at Beach Road, that's just a design. The construction is gonna be probably well over $1 million. We don't know until it's bid.
Yeah, the
Because
do you
what-
think it's more
Two lines below.
beneficial to repair this culvert than to get the study? Because I'm just wondering how many people are actually impacted by that,
Yeah, not many, it's just the fear of it, let's go.
as opposed to people who are actually trapped.
Yeah, trapped. I get you. You know, we can reprioritize that. We would need a study, but not a study, a design done. A design done. So, you know, I got in there $250,000 for design. But then it's funding of the bridge itself, because you gotta remember, that's a narrow, like 18 feet there. You have to keep it open, so you have to put in a Bailey bridge, temporary bridge. So you have to get the people across, and you have to build it, and then probably move the Bailey Bridge, or open that lane, remove the Bailey Bridge, and then do the second phase. And, you know, so it's a big project. So, I mean, I could prioritize it as priority number 1.
No, I'm just.
I mean, that's
in your
fine, it's
mind,
just.
How do you prioritize it, that's
Right,
all?
it's.
Because
just
I would have deferred to you.
Right, we've just been carrying Belden Lane for like 2 or 3 years now.
Okay.
We've been talking about this and getting it done.
Okay.
And it's, you know, I think it was funded once, and then because it was going nowhere with some obstacles we had out there, pulled it back.
So Steve, you have the design in here, but we don't have any construction costs through 29.
For Beach Road?
Yeah. or am I
Beach Road
missing-
is,
Second line.
Beach Road is down.
and that next 2 down, you're looking at Industrial
Oh,
Park, I think
I
it's
stopped in,
switched sorted.
yep, okay.
Yeah.
So 1.5.
Yeah.
I got you.
So in the industrial park, we just got the proposals from consultants, because that's the money we got from Kerry Wood of $500,000. So we went out on that, we got the proposal, we have to review them, but the construction, we pushed it out.
The construction, the
'Cause-
whole purpose of getting the $500,000 bond money was to provide a design for that bridge to incentivize somebody to come in and develop a portion of that property,
Yeah.
not for us to build it, so.
Yeah,
I think-
hopefully get somebody else to build it.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Buy the
I
land,
agree.
buy the land and build it.
I agree with you, yeah.
So,
Okay.
So that opens up something like 60 acres?
no,
No?
it's,
We have
18 of it is the.
The farm,
is
the,
the
solar
solar
farm.
farm.
Oh, okay.
And then there's
The
a
other
detention
40
pond.
acres we're using for public works right now
Yep.
for storage materials
And then there's some obstacles with some
Chips and-
easements that they will not release. We ran into this with the
other
school.
things.
You know, the Moser School, we had a staircase an inch into their easement, and they went bonkers, if you recall. They would not, and there's nothing in that easement, it's just dead ends. They want to release it,
So by
so.
building the industrial park culvert, or the design,
Yeah.
what does that buy us? If you're saying that we can't use the land on the other side?
Oh, we can use it, it's just not all 60 acres.
Oh, okay,
It's not all
so a
60
smaller
acres.
portion of it could.
Smaller portion, and then there's another
I got
piece
you.
behind it
Yeah.
that somebody just bought
Okay.
from Russo.
There's another 54 acres behind our 62.
Yeah,
Okay.
which is
The access
basically
would be
landlocked.
that way.
Okay, all right, now I'm understanding. All
So,
right, thank you.
we've had conceptual subdivision designs done for that area, that was prior to the solar field.
Yeah.
Depending on where you want, like 2 acre, I guess the hot thing now is like a 2 acre lot versus
It's
a
either
bigger.
60,000 square foot lot.
Yeah.
I have a question, Ray. How do we market that now that we've done this? Now that, I know we don't have economic development director, but
Let me
if
ask him.
if we had,
I don't think he's here tonight.
if we had one, is that something that that person would do? Like,
Well, that's what I did for many years until we had the solar farm come in, and then unfortunately, the solar farm took the best part of that
Yeah.
property. So now it's much more difficult to market, particularly since Public Works is using that. You need some storage area, so we'd have to maybe rearrange part of what Joe does in that area. We maybe open up some more acres, probably maybe 20 acres at the most. But the key is trying to develop what we have in our property available with a 54-acre property owned by, formerly owned by Russo. We had we put out several RFPs over the years, way back in 2008, 9, 10, 11, I think. Because anytime we want to sell town property, we have to go out for an RFP. So we would go out for an RFP based on what interest we might have at that time. One was a solar energy industrial park.
Mhm.
Really cool idea. That didn't work out because what would have happened is we would actually would have given the developer money in order for him to develop it. Because at the time, the value of that property was probably around $2 million, believe it or not. Town didn't want to do that, so.
Wasn't there a gas recharge something, or was that just a portion, remember that?
The gas infusion
Yeah.
station project. We don't need to get into that, but that was a proposal to allow a gas infusion facility at the very end of our property where tankers would come in with natural gas and infuse it into the station, and that would infuse into the natural gas line that's up on the hill. That
I
goes.
remember that.
Yeah,
I
remember
remember
that?
that, yeah.
It was like around the clock
Yeah,
tankers.
that's when
Yes.
I forget the name of the organization that came to our public
Yeah.
hearings to picket
Yeah.
against the
Yeah.
fracking.
Yes,
fracking
yes,
project.
yeah. And isn't there an aquifer out there?
This is
Yes,
level A
level A.
aquifer for part of Glastonbury and part of Prattville.
Yeah, so you gotta be careful what goes in there.
Steve, any more you want to go through?
Let me just look real quick here. We had the culvert, the beach road, yeah, that's about it. The community farm to continue on what we're doing with the farm down there. You know, there's gonna be some community gardens and some trails and some infrastructure that needs to be brought in, because right now that barn's being built and there's no power, no water, and no sewer. So it's truly a barn for storage.
And you have your public workspace study?
Yep, well, that was under Joe, but I just got a quote today. I had it here, and now it's not in my file.
Public Works or drainage? You got a quote for it.
The Public Works.
Yes.
I reached out to a couple people I know who might do this and just asked them to do me a favor and give me a quote, and the first one came in like 70 some odd thousand. Like I said, I had to pay, I was just here, I don't know, probably shuffling somebody else's, to do a study for, it's to look for a parcel of land possibly, you know, a study of what we need.
Yeah.
You know, possibly combining parks and highways into the same building. They don't have to be next to each other, they could be opposite ends. With a garage in the middle.
With a fence.
And, yeah.
Like-
All lunchtime pickleball match.
So it can consolidate into one building, you know, what we need, because if you've ever been to the garage, you'll see that it's not ADA compliant. Can you get through that door? I don't think you can get through that door. There's one restroom with a couple facilities. It's co-ed, so if you ever hired, or you know, somebody visiting,
Yeah.
so there's no facilities for ladies. There's nowhere for the guys to really sleep when they come in late at night, you know, so all the trucks are parked outside. The newer garages, they're in general parked inside, especially when they're diesel.
Stormwater.
Your car wash.
Stormwater, we don't have, to meet, BPA and MS4, we don't have a proper wash. So, that stuff is going in the drains. They catch us, or shut us down, because they've been out before and cited us. So, there's a lot of environmental issues, ADA issues, all that. And again, like the pool, it's built in the 60s, early 60s, I believe.
It's a big ticket item.
It is a big ticket item. So the study will analyze, what we need, how many mechanics you'll have, how many personnel you'll have, what you need, and can it be done on that site? Do we have to move it somewhere else? How much acreage do you need? We have a transfer station. Does that go with it? Does that stay there?
You have a salt shed.
Salt shed, which is probably getting near the end of its life too. And then we have the brush pile down in that pit. If we could free that up, it's more marketable to somebody going into that industrial park. So,
Back up about, when you said about the barn,
the barn, yes,
and you said there was no water, no electricity,
those were.
so it's just gonna be storage?
Well, for phase one.
For now.
Oh, for phase one.
We're getting it built.
Yeah.
That's why.
That's what I was like, what?
Well, that's why the money's in
That's
here.
why it's-
Yeah.
To keep
That's why I-
progressing, to get those
Got it.
amenities. Yes.
I figured I missed something.
Yes.
The plumbing is rough, will be roughed.
We'll rough in. They'll leave a sleeve,
Farm-like.
cap it,
For like,
so they can run water and sewer through the sleeve. Electricity can come in up
Okay,
top
so
and
it's
go
just-
in.
okay, 'cause I-
Yeah, it's just not there yet.
Initially.
It's not in the budget, so
Gotcha.
we're providing for the future, so that will be part of the future.
Thank you. Makes me feel better.
Anything else on the town capital improvement side?
I
Joe?
wanted to point out the extra little handout that we didn't talk about, the photos, to give you an idea that when we are doing our CIP budget, these are example of a couple of my favorite students. I'm sorry, I think I should have had Steve in there too. He was my star student. But this is the new software with ClearGov. So what you'll find is an item like this for each of these listed items, not so much the leased vehicles that are ongoing, but for example, Phil, when he did the firehouse roof, went up, took pictures, has uploaded it. He'll write up a narrative, it'll show you the expenses, whether it's funded or not, also if it goes over multi-years. And another example I had on was Craig's National Park deck hockey. And again, I think this is gonna really help us with the CIP, so you get to see what it is and get a description from the department. And I know Steve's got some incredible pictures of these, bridges and so forth, so.
It's very user friendly. I
That's
like,
good
I
to
like.
know.
Quirky, it's quirky.
Yeah,
You
but
can't
once you
put a
figure it
JPEG.
out, no, you
I
can't.
know,
You
do.
can, but it doesn't pop up. You have to open it, so you have to be on your
Yeah.
computer.
Yeah. It was a
Whereas
good
some of the
program.
stuff, yeah,
I liked it.
you have the
It's easy to
pictures.
follow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
did very well.
So that's why I mean it's quirky. If you try, like I tried to convert a JPEG to make it a picture, it said too big. So you have to open it. Can we go back, we missed Joe's fuel tanks,
Oh, go right ahead.
which kind of
Yep.
tie into a new garage.
Yes.
It doesn't make sense to, we have to by statute and code, replace them by 28.
Yeah, there's a little confliction there. We might have, 28, I believe, is the year they have to come out.
Yeah, so we've got that 28, 29, so that could be teetering on too late.
27, 28 would probably be better.
Yep.
But if we're looking at a garage and we can't do it there, it doesn't make sense to get the new
Right.
tanks there. And they're not cheap.
I didn't get a cost on the excavation of removal. I mean, if we abandon them and then get them out, I'm sure we can work with DEP because we won't use them anymore. It's, again, 2 tanks above ground. That's what everybody's doing.
They're vault tanks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, all vaults,
So
town
they
vaults.
can be they can be moved.
They can be
If
moved.
you do build
Yeah.
something,
Yeah.
build something.
Yeah.
Yes.
And those are diesel and gas or
Yeah,
just?
I would get
Do a
these on.
combo tank?
Yeah, 10,000 for both. That way they were not, spending the money on all these deliveries.
Would they be covered? Like a shed roof?
The original proposal that I gave previous was covered. And I have pictures and everything. I'm getting quotes now, they're just, he hasn't got back to me yet.
So,
Takes, that stuff takes time. It's United Concrete. They're the state low bid, they're the ones that do it all for everybody, all the municipalities, CROG, everything.
How long does it take to get an answer out of G?
We don't wanna go there probably.
Yeah, not the point.
Gotta go to their house.
Start today.
That's my point.
Depend on who you know and who you call.
All right. I think the last item is meeting dates. And Mimi noted November 27th is the Wednesday before Thanksgiving.
I'm okay with it, but I didn't know if everybody else was.
No one wants to be here at 5 a.m.
No.
Right.
I think
that's
this
what I
office will
thought.
be empty
Daniel
by noon.
pointed that out to us, so
Yeah.
like
I think
Daniel.
we need to revise
Yeah.
that date.
All right.
And the only other one I was gonna comment, July 24th, where after we pass the budget, is there really much to talk about at that point?
Not at that point.
No.
Lots of exhaustion.
No, I mean,
Plan for next year.
It's
It's in there.
yeah. We always end up, we could leave it there, but it always seems to
Cancel
get
it if,
canceled.
if something
Right.
comes up.
But I think the 27th, we gotta either
Okay.
move up a week,
Yeah, probably don't.
so whatever that is, 7 days, the 20th.
Yeah. Good.
All right. If there's nothing else, we'll adjourn the meeting. You can make a motion, sure.
I'll move it.
You want a second, Lisa? You're not even really here.
can't, I
I'll second it.
can't.
Oh, you did it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
We didn't do any minutes.
We can't do minutes.
I wasn't.
Lisa can't
I
vote.
was-